Hello and Happy New Year! Welcome back to my channel, Goddess of Gore. My name is Vix and today I want to talk about all of the books I am going to read in January. Notice I said I am going to read, not I hope to. This is the year I actually read what I say. So, January books, and since the month has already started, I think we'll just stop dicking about and just get on with it. Okay, so in case you haven't noticed, I am not going to set out any goals, ideas and plans because I just like planning my monthly reads, telling you about the books with occasional themed reads. The only thing I do want to do this year is to get involved with some collabs and other booktubers with maybe get involved with other people in general, because I still feel very lonely here in my tiny little corner. And even though I do work a lot in real life and have other things going on like 2 side hustles, if you ever want to know about my life away from books, let me know, by the way. That could be fun or it could be bad. Nah. That'd be pants. What are you talking about? It would be nice to be, I don't know, it would be nice for people to work together a little bit more and shake up the usual scheduling. So you won't find much change here, I don't think. I won't be playing the YouTube game of 3 uploads a week. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. If I can get 1 upload a week, I'll be happy. And if that leaves me way behind, then so be it. I'm here to just talk about books after all. So, now that I've got that off my chest, what am I going to be reading then? Well, at the end of December, I was watching all of my usual plethora of booktubers, and I was on the lookout for any read-alongs in January that I could take part in. And do you think I could find any? No. But none really caught my eye, so I decided to take Leanne from Leanne's library up on her offer of a year-long reading of different series. Also, I'm taking part in the year-long buzzwords for this year with Books and Nala, having not really paid much attention to it for the last 2 years. Although I haven't thought about what books I'm going to be reading for that, so I won't be mentioning that again today. And of course I'm taking part in the Around the Disc in 800, which will take obviously 800 days or more or less, so that is definitely a bigger picture event. I have a couple of new releases that I really want to get to this month as well. So first, my most anticipated event is Around the Disc in 800 Days, hosted by Katie from Melby Reads. Melby Reads? Or is it Melb Reads? Or is it Mel Breads? I don't know. But she's on Bookstagram, and Leanne from Novel Menagerie here on YouTube. Leanne is one of the few British booktubers who I absolutely adore so much, because she's always has a great sense of humour and reads from all manner of books from all ages and all genres, and is just generally an amazingly beautiful person. And I'll stop gushing now. And Katie is someone who I don't know, but I am sure that after 2 years of posting on Instagram together, I may get to know a little bit more about them. So what is the event? Well, Terry Pratchett wrote 41 Discworld books during his life, and we aim to read 2 every month with breaks every so often, starting with The Colour of Magic and ending with The Shepherd's Crown in 800 days, funnily enough. So January is starting at the very beginning obviously with The Colour of Magic and The Light Fantastic, and this starts with the introduction of the Discworld being a flat world that is on top of a floating through space turtle. At the end of the ocean is a net that stops things falling off the end of the world, so it's a bit like our world then. Of course not. Our world isn't flat. Or is it? So this story is pretty simple. The story of the city of Ankh-Morpork is getting its first tourist to Flower. And of course this plays on the British stereotype of a visitor abroad who can't speak the language very well, shouts and points a lot, and has no idea of the different currency. Of course the inhabitants of Ankh-Morpork see this as a way to fleece this poor man out of his money, and he is none the wiser until the failed wizard Rincewind comes along and shoos everyone away. Of course, there wouldn't be a tourist without a set of luggage, and I think everyone ends up loving this particular set, with hundreds of little feet ever loyally following its owner and violently devoted should anyone try and steal it. What you end up with is a funny first novel with a mini adventure, and then it's on to the second book for the next 2 weeks of January, although I don't think there's any hard fast reading timeline in the month. So this is the light fantastic, and this one picks up straight after the end of the last book and has the same main characters. I won't say much more than that because I think I'll probably end up spoiling the first book. So we'll just leave that on there. So the new releases that I am very much looking forward to are Grady Hendrix's latest release, How to Sell a Haunted House, and CJ Tudor's The Drift. I don't have a physical copy of either of them yet because they are on the way. I've pre-ordered them, but I do have the ebook advance copies sent very kindly by NetGalley, and shall we pretend that I haven't already read Grady Hendrix's book? But it doesn't come out until the 17th, so I'll try and do a little something when it's released, and I will talk about it a bit more. But it's basically, and I'm not going to spoil it because this is in the synopsis, it's about a pair of grown children who find out that their parents have died after a car crash, and they are left to empty and sell their creepy house that has a weird vibe about it. I will say that if this is what this year's new releases are going to be like, then I can't wait to see what else is on the table, because this it was so good. And the CJ Tudor, who I don't think gets the recognition that she deserves because she's a fantastic writer. The Burning Girls was a brilliant book, I think, anyway. Maybe she's just shelved a little wrongly. I think she's so talented as a dark thriller or a psychological thriller writer, and I think this is going to be no exception. The Drift comes out on the 19th, so it's a little bit longer for that one, and this takes part during a snowstorm, which I think is the perfect setting for a thriller. And this is about 3 characters who are all stuck in the snow but in different scenarios, and I presume it's all happening at the same time. So Hannah is in a coach crash, sorry. Meg is stuck on a cable car, which, oh my god, brilliant. And Carter is in a chalet. All 3 of them have to escape to survive, and there's also a deadly virus on the loose, and of course the snowstorm blizzard thingy happening outside. So I think this is going to be like a race for survival tension thriller novel. And as I was saying to Elizabeth from Reading Riley a couple of weeks ago, I don't think I read hardly any thrillers last year, so I think this is the year of the thriller comeback. So although I am going to be listing off a load of fantasy books in a second, I have a book club read for the Sweater Weather Discord group, and that is the Cybernetic Tea Shop by Meredith Katz. The Sweater Weather Book Club is a cosy fantasy Discord group that is a wonderful addition to the Cozy Fantasy Reddit page. It is something that I have been lurking on for a while, having found it last year, I think. But this year I am going to be actively reading along monthly with them. So this is about a future where robots are under strict laws after being misused in the past, or our future. And everyone carries their advanced Alexa around in the form of a pet, and a young woman, Clara, who has a job fixing... Thank you, Alexa. Clara, who has a job fixing these pets, who happens to find this tea shop run by a robot who's in dire need of a bit of help, and how I presume they fall in love, since there is romance with robots and humans. Then onto the 4 fantasy read-alongs, or just ideas to read with Leanne's library, who mostly reads slightly darker fantasy. Do I need to mention how many times she rereads from Joe Abercrombie every year? Who, by the way, I do heartily recommend to people who want to make the move from horror and thrillers into fantasy. So in a video of 2023 plans, which I'll link below, she has some very good ideas. One of them was to read all of Neil Gaiman's books, picking one a month, and even though I have read my fair share of Gaiman's books, I thought this would be a fantastic idea, starting in January with Neverwhere and ending in December with Norse Gods, which isn't one of his best books. And as I said, the one for January is Neverwhere, set in an upside down London. Now, I have already read this book before and I absolutely love it. In this book you follow the very ordinary man called Richard, living a very ordinary life in London with his very demanding fiancée, until he meets a girl called Doreen, who he finds hurt on the street. This will be the beginning of his adventure in the underground of London, where the tube stops are actually people, and with Doreen's ability to magically open doorways, they will find out what actually happened to Doreen before Richard found her. Then she came up with the Witcher read-along with the Chapter 3 podcast members. So this will be a reading of the eight Witcher books by Andrzej Sapkowski, in order, starting with The Last Wish in January and ending with Season of Storms in October. Thank you, phone. Taking a break in March and September, I think, was the schedule. The Last Wish is a kind of short story collection with a main story running all the way through it. 7 short stories that seem very familiar because they are based on actual fairy stories, but with a few twists. I think this is probably one of the most read Witcher books and seems to be a firm favourite with those that have read it. So if you want to read a Witcher book but don't want to commit to a whole series, then I think this is the best choice. In this you will find demons and vampires, wizards, superstitious, and of course monsters, because witches are monster killers for hire after all. So January to March will be very busy indeed, with a couple of shorter read-alongs too, with the 5 Warrior Angels books. These are a trilogy by Brian Lee Durfee, starting with The Forgetting Moon. These are grimdark, which, if you don't know, are the darker side of fantasy, which usually involves despicable characters with no morals and are usually criminals of the worst kind. But they're the main characters and we all like them. So it's like Darth Vader in Star Wars. And honestly, I have seen this cover a gazillion times, but I've never looked into what it's about. So my notes say this is about a young orphan named Niall, who is raised by an old warrior called Shawcroft, and Niall may or may not hold the link to the 5 Isles salvation, so I presume that the 5 Isles is a world they live in and it's at war. This has varied reviews on Goodreads and it's bloody huge. It's 800 pages, but I do have the audio, which is 30 hours long, as well as the ebook, because apparently you can't get a physical copy of this in England very easily, not without your house deeds and a promise of your firstborn child. So luckily I have both of those to use. the audio and the ebook, not the house and the child. Then the last read along will be his Dark Materials trilogy and the 2 Book of Dust, taking up January to the end of May. Now, I haven't read his Dark Materials for years, and although I own the Book of Dust, I have never read it, so I am very much looking forward to this. The first book is Northern Lights if you're in the UK, or The Golden Compass if you're in the US, and this is about a young girl called Lyra whose best friend Roger has gone missing. Set in a parallel world, these people have animal companions called demons with them all the time, who are kind of inner self empaths. I don't know how to describe them, and it's something you have all the time and can change shape up until you reach puberty, and then it stays in the same animal form, so it's a bit like a birth pet companion. So Roger has been stolen by a kind of child snatchers, which they call the gobblers, and Lyra with her demon and her truth telling device, which is where the Golden Compass title comes from, because that's what it looks like. It's like a pocket watch compass. So she travels all the way from London to the Arctic to find her friend, but along the way she too ends up in the clutches of the gobblers, and she has to get herself and Roger out. And then, just for fun, and because it's still technically winter, I thought I would finish the Winternight trilogy with the what's it called? Book 2. Book 2, The Girl in the Tower. These are by Catherine Arden. These Russian set books are very cold and folklory, and the first book was amazing. This one follows the same characters, I think picking up the story not long after the first book has ended, with Vasha, who can see the Slavic folklore characters that others cannot and use them to help her find hidden things or lost people. This one takes Vasha all the way to the Prince of Moscow, dressed and living now as a boy. She's treated and welcomed as a hero for her rescuing, but she will have to keep the Frost Demon, who is keeping a very close eye on her, out of the royal family and the royal palace. And then, if I have plenty of time, I have books, new releases and older books that I want to get to. There is Finlay Donovan by L. Cosimano coming out, and The Witches of Vardo by Anya Bergman, which is about witch trials in Norway set in 1662. There's The Dark Inheritance by H.F. Asquith, which is a bit of a dark academia inheritance games kinds of book. Or I have a million books on my backlist, want to read list, but only if I have time. So that is it. Thank you so much for watching as always. Let me know what you're reading, or are you looking forward to any of the new releases this month? Have you already read any of the fantasy series that I have mentioned? Did you enjoy them? Or do you fancy joining in on any of them with me? Let me know in the comments below if you fancy doing any of them. Like if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to. Now, today I'm not going to end with my usual flourish of a quote. Instead, I want to offer a chat or a conversation, something, anything, to anyone who is struggling with company or friends. Anything at all, not just now during this time of year when things can feel really bleak and miserable and dark and lonely, but for the future. If you want to contact someone, then as I know most likely anyone here on BookTube will, I am always here or on social media. I think I'm on every platform. Some of them are in the description below, and if you ever seem a bit gloomy, then please just send me or a friend or anybody a message, and I will bore you senseless. I honestly know how it feels to be stuck inside your own dark head for months on end, and I would much rather offer, I don't know, I might seem a bit of a knob, but I really do care about the other humans on this planet. I just thought that I would put that out there, that no one needs to feel alone or different or anything. Please get in touch with someone if you ever feel like you are stuck in here. But as always, make good book choices, my friends, and I will see you all soon. Until next time, bye bye.